I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, inviting you to join me every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. and every weekday at 2 p.m. for discussions of social political issues and to dissect the meaning and the importance of current events, as well as to understand topics of legislations. The Fourth Branch Project is not associated with any political party, and we at the Fourth Branch do not have any political agenda or aspiration. Our ultimate objective is to work towards achieving a more perfect union by removing ignorance, the biggest obstacle to our democracy. Stay with us. We will be right back. Hello everyone, I am MD and this is the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. Welcome. Today we take a look at two very important topics. One, we will continue to feature a candidate for the office of the presidency in light of the 2020 presidential election that is impending. But today, instead of our regular second topic, we will talk about the Mueller's report, the release that just made news this morning at 9:30 a.m. when Attorney General William Barr gave a conference before releasing the redacted report. And across the nation, and probably across the world, many have been poring over this document in order to find something, anything, and it is frenzy. Here at the Fourth Branch, the place for common sense, we take a look at what does all that mean? Does it even matter? When we return, we'll take a quick look at those two topics, which are somewhat related. We'll be right back. Donald Trump is wrong to call the media the enemy of the people. Throughout history, dictators, authoritarians have always tried to delegitimize the media in order to get away with corruption, scandal, and yes, even abuse. Adolf Hitler did exactly the same thing in 1933, accusing the media of fabrication. Journalists are not in the business of fairness. Our only business is to be objective. It is our duty to hold Trump and every administration accountable. Today, it is urgent. It is necessary. It is critical. Our very freedom depends on it. Most likely today you've already heard so many different versions of what the report means. If there was ever a time when information overload could damage perception, could damage an individual, that's today. Now, to anyone who's been here in the United States of America for the past 2 years, more specifically since Donald Trump has been president, the idea of an investigation has been pretty much looming over the administration. The report is what? The report is about what? So obviously, if there is a report, there was something that was done, and there is a reason to, well, issue a report in order for us, people, we, the people, to understand what this is all about. Now, we're not going to bore you with the detail because most of those are already in plain view, have already been discussed many times. What we wish to do today is to kind of give you a tour, if you like, of how we got there and what does it mean for the country. Does it even matter? Now, Robert Mueller is the individual who was tasked to investigate something that happened in the country. We'll get to that in a minute. William Barr is the individual who presented a few, who tried his best for quite a few days now, getting to think about it, a couple of weeks, to use that report in order to make a determination as to what exactly happened. Robert Mueller, when appointed, was well regarded. Everybody knows that Robert Mueller is a stickler, so to speak, someone who would investigate and he would come to a conclusion or not based on what he has found, not based on his feeling, not based on what people think, not based on what people want. William Barr, who is now the Attorney General, everybody already knows, auditioned for the job. He wanted to become Attorney General. Now everybody missed the bar, no pun intended, that William Barr, in his current predicament, is in his late 60s. He doesn't care to get another job. He just wants a job to make a lot of money and retire comfortably. As far as what it means, what it does to the country, who cares? In fact, he is not alone. We have a whole Republican Party that has relinquished its duty to the country because it just doesn't matter. Now, we're not here to discuss really the Republican Party, and it's something we have as a regular topic in this program to show that for reason that we yet to understand, the Republican Party for the past 100 years has been making all the wrong move. In other way to put it is they've been doing everything that is detrimental to the constituent, that's detrimental to the nation. And if you've been watching this program, this is not just gibberish. I've been providing proof of such. Now, that aside, so William Barr, just like Robert Mueller, was well regarded. In fact, despite the fact that he auditioned for the job, despite the fact that he put out a 19-page memo that got everyone scratching his or her head as to why he would have done something like that. Everyone still believes that when he was appointed the Attorney General, he would be the individual that all those people know. Someone who would abide by the rule of law, someone who would enforce the law. But the past few weeks, every single individual, those who have worked with Barr, has been asking the question, what exactly is going on? What happened to Barr? In fact, there are already many different articles that already point to the fact that his legacy is definitely not going to be a good one. And all that has to do with the report. And it seems that Barr auditioned for the job because he wanted to do what, or at least he believed that what Donald Trump wanted in an attorney general, he will do it, he can do it, and he probably also try to capitalize on his popularity among the constitutionalists, that he is a good guy, he knows what he's doing, he's very knowledgeable, and he will abide by the rule of law. That's why everybody is shocked as to what he's doing now. Now, we're not here to discuss Barr either. Just a side note. We're here to make sense of, one, how did we get to the report? What triggered all the events that produce a report? We'll take a quick look at that, and we also will try to understand the reaction of individuals who have been scouring the internet, who have been listening to various networks, to various media, and either to find further against that particular network, to criticize one network and the other, but without any care in the world as to what that all means. We will obviously here, this is the place for common sense. We do not have any gripe against a political party or the other. As we mentioned in the announcement, we are striving for a perfect union, meaning we ought to remove the obstacle, the biggest one, which is ignorance. And if we manage to do that, then anything and everything that we talked about here can be seen through the prism of common sense. Maybe, just maybe, we might achieve a perfect union.
After reading several books based on presidents and on Obama specifically, I found that they're typically partisan. The Obama legacy targets the heart of the issue by giving credit to the president where it's due, but definitely coming down hard on Obama on his bigger failures, like his handling of the Syrian crisis.
If you are in college, going to college, you are an educator, a faculty member, or someone with interest in government or politics, the Obama Legacy is definitely a book to read.
My professor recommended The Obama Legacy.
A friend actually recommended The Obama Legacy.
I would highly recommend this book for anyone, whether for academic use or leisure reading.
I would recommend this book to anyone out there searching for an impartial and unbiased look into Barack Obama's tenure as president.
I would definitely recommend this book as a good read for both liberals and conservatives.
The other aspect of our conversation today will hinge on the 2020 presidential election. As you know, there are a number of candidates who are crisscrossing the country trying to be your number one, trying to be the individual who clinches the Democrat nomination in order to take on Donald Trump. Now, one such person today we will be talking about is Messam. He is a Democrat, obviously, and he too wants to be the individual to become the nominee for the party to take on Donald Trump. Stay with me. We will come back to discuss both topics. I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, inviting you to join me every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. and every weekday at 2 p.m. for discussions of social political issues and to dissect the meaning and the importance of current events, as well as to understand topics of legislations. The Fourth Branch Project is not associated with any political party, and we at the Fourth Branch do not have any political agenda or aspiration. Our ultimate objective is to work towards achieving a more perfect union by removing ignorance, the biggest obstacle to our democracy. Stay with us. We will be right back. Now, if you are a Trump supporter, in particular, a Republican in general, chances are the report did not make any difference in your life. In fact, since Donald Trump has been president of the United States, survey after survey after survey reveal that there is a percentage of the population that's been with Donald Trump and has never strayed away from him. In fact, if you recall that during the 2016 presidential campaign, Donald Trump did make a famous statement by saying even if he were to shoot someone in the middle of the street on Fifth Avenue, he would not lose any voter. Maybe he knew something, maybe he knows something. And it so happened that maybe he was right. No matter how much Donald Trump has strayed away from the norm, no matter what he has done, no matter how much evidence of any crime or any corruption that he is involved in, he still enjoys the same approval rating that got him to be elected. Now, this is not to say it's okay, because we know as a country, the framers of the Constitution already did anticipate that we may have predicament like that, and they made provision for it. But we're not here to talk about that. We want to go through with the process of the report. What does the report mean? Now, we began to read the report and also watching different network. We here at the Fourth Branch, we also felt overwhelmed, probably for a different reason. Now, for those who would not change their mind no matter what, it really doesn't matter what they hear. In fact, most of those individuals are looking for a place where their beliefs are supported, corroborated by the story. If not, they just move on. Now, that is a sad predicament for the country, because the way that a country can move forward and make progress is when people are open and willing to recognize that when they make a mistake, they're willing to fix that problem. Imagine if you go to school and you keep repeating 2 times 3 are 5, and you are corrected and explain that's not the case, and you continue to do it, that in terms of math problem you would never get the correct answer. And if you want to extrapolate and move it even further down in life, then you'll be screwed. So there is no reason for anyone in life, anyone who aspires to progress, anyone who belongs to the human race, would reject knowing or finding out that he or she is or was wrong and work to fix that problem. It so happened, in this particular example that we're looking at, when it comes to Trump, it just doesn't matter to those individuals that the same person that they were hoping would make things better actually are making things worse, and yet it doesn't matter. So what we're about to say does not make any difference for those individuals. We can only help people who want to be helped, people who are open to information that can help, and people who are open and willing to change in order to advance when they stumble on the correct information. Now, how did the report get created? After Donald Trump took over the presidency of the United States, January 20th, 2017, a number of things happened. The first order of business, there was Sally Yates, who was at that time acting Attorney General for under the Trump, not under the Trump, under the Obama administration, went to the White House to warn the White House about Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn was the security advisor for Donald Trump, and provided them with information to show that Michael Flynn could be compromised because, well, he lied. And as someone who works with the president, that the enemy, in that case Russia, could use that information to put the security advisor of the nation in compromised position. The Trump administration completely ignored it until it becomes news. That's when, of course, they pretend that, oh, we didn't know. Now Michael Flynn had to be let go, but because DOJ, FBI was already looking into that problem, and James Comey was then FBI director, was in the center of this whole thing, for reason that we ought to take a look at. Donald Trump wanted James Comey to drop that investigation. He sent Reince Priebus to talk to James Comey, and Reince Priebus did that twice to no avail. Donald Trump himself summoned James Comey to the Oval Office and tried to talk him into dropping the Mike Flynn investigation, to no avail. Donald Trump made phone call to James Comey, tried to nudge him to drop the investigation, to no avail. And in the end, Donald Trump realized that James Comey is not going to drop the investigation, and he got rid of James Comey. And he left no doubt in no one's mind why he fired James Comey. He said it himself. He joked about it in the Oval Office with Russian Ambassador Kislyak inside the Oval Office, journalists. He also mentioned it on an interview with Lester Holt. So this is not speculation. It's Donald Trump himself who said why he got rid of James Comey, and which triggered the appointment, by the way, which triggered the appointment of Rod Rosenstein to be acting Attorney General when it comes to anything that has to do with investigation, because Jeff Sessions, that was then the Attorney General, had to recuse him because he too was implicated in the Russian debacle. Rod Rosenstein appointed that man, Robert Mueller, to be special counsel to look into the scandal. Rod Rosenstein, that individual you're looking at on your screen, was the individual who became the acting Attorney General for the sake of the investigation. Now, Donald Trump was completely unhappy with that. He tried to get Robert Mueller fired. Don McGahn, at that time, who was the attorney for the White House, was given direct order by the President of the United States to have Rod Rosenstein fire Robert Mueller. Now, instead of carrying out the order, Don McGahn started collecting his things and was going to hand his resignation to the president. And that's the reason Robert Mueller was not fired. And also, while the investigation was ongoing, Trump and associates were talking to all the different parties who had to be called by the special counsel, or individuals who have information that would be damaging to the president, including and his personal attorney, not to cooperate, not to say anything, to stay on the side of the president, and everything would be fine. Now I want you, constituent of the United States of America, to think about what I just said for 1 second. Those are not story, those are facts, and they of course been debating in the public arena and now in the report that was just put out. Think about that for just 1 second. Now there is some sort of jubilation on the part of the president and his attorney saying, see, they cannot even determine that I committed a crime. And you have even legislators in Washington, Republican legislators, who are making the case. There is no, Jim Jordan in particular, there is no obstruction, no collusion. In fact, the irony of the whole thing, there is no such thing that's said in the report. The report never said there was no collusion. The report never said there was no obstruction. All that Mueller concluded is, from a prosecutor, he could not get to the point of saying definitively that Donald Trump collaborated with Russia. Not that there were no collaboration, not that there was no collusion, because there were enough evidence that showed that there was passing of information. So Mueller never said any such thing. There was no collusion. He just said that there is not enough evidence that would make the Trump team that could point finger. In other words, if I put $1 here, I put this pen down, and the only person in the room is, we'll take the analogy, Donald Trump. The pen is the Russia scandal, all the collaboration, all the detail that went on. Now the only people in the rooms are Donald Trump and company. The pen disappear. Now nobody saw Donald Trump or any one of his associates take the pen. We also, in the example, make certain that nobody else entered the room, so that there is no ambiguity that the pen had to be taken by Trump or someone in his circle. But what Mueller is saying, we know what happened to the pen. We just cannot figure out who took the pen. That's all he's saying. He didn't say there is no collusion. On obstruction, you don't have to be a prosecutor for you to see all of those things right under your eyes. Look at it from a legal perspective, and because he's looking at it from that angle, you say, I cannot come to the conclusion that there is a crime. But the part that the Trump administration, company, attorneys are jubilant about is the other side of the coin. Robert Mueller also said that we cannot exonerate him. But nobody seems to, especially it baffles me for Republican legislators, for the Attorney General, who is supposed to be the Attorney General of the country, to come to Trump's defense. And that should be of concern to any American, no matter where you stand, whether you like Trump or not. Yes, it's favorable to Trump to have those people do that, but it's not favorable to the country, because what it does to the country is trashing our system, our constitution, the rule of law. Because when you have someone who's supposed to enforce law, who's supposed to make certain that this institution stays intact, and that's the person that's undermining it, it cannot be a good day for America. Now, what I found out, which is sad, is this is the bar that the country now has set for the presidency of the United States. That's the bar. That it's okay. Now, the discussion that's currently going on is the following: that, well, Robert Mueller has a hard time coming to the conclusion of a crime, and that's the standard for the President of the United States. Now, if you think that's good news, You have to be Republican to think that's good news for the country, because there is no citizen, no patriot who would think that at this juncture we are discussing, arguing that the president committed a crime. Now, because there is some legal technicality that makes it impossible for a prosecutor to say definitely yes, and the country, Donald Trump and company, are celebrating. This is where our low that the country has fallen. So this report is not matter for celebration, not for the country anyway. More importantly, we should not have an attorney general. We should not have people in the legislative body that are jumping up and down as if, gee, that's a victory. No, it's not a victory. It's not for the country. Which is the reason that we have the topic we've been discussing for the past couple of days, that what is it? Do we want the country to get better, or do we not? Now, here's what Abraham Lincoln said: we, the people, are the rightful masters of Congress and the courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the man who pervert the Constitution. Let me say that one more time. We, the people, are the rightful masters of both Congress and the courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the man who pervert the Constitution. Today, we have the Attorney General, we have the President of the United States, we have the whole Republican Party, the members of the Republican Party, men and women who have perverted the Constitution. You either live in the United States of America or you're not. You cannot be loyal to the country and at the same time let a man destroy the Constitution, trample the rule of law, and diminish the importance of our institution. That's what the report that just got released, that's what that report represents for the United States of America. That we are in deep trouble.
Ignorance, they say, is the biggest threat to any democracy. Indeed, it is. Plato, a Greek philosopher born in 427 BC, said that ignorance is the root and stem of all evil. Today, members in the Republican Party wear ignorance as a badge of honor, while the rest of the country watch powerless the destruction of a country which was once the envy of the world. The media is the enemy of the country, said Donald Trump. The Democrat legislators are obstructionists for not going along with everything the president wants. The Department of Justice is biased for investigating corruption in the Trump administration. This is the United States of America. Any question? Donald Trump is wrong to call the media the enemy of the people. Throughout history, dictators, authoritarians have always tried to delegitimize the media in order to get away with corruption, scandal, and yes, even abuse. Adolf Hitler did exactly the same thing in 1933, accusing the media of fabrication. Journalists are not in the business of fairness. Our only business, is to be objective. It is our duty to hold Trump and every administration accountable. Today, it is urgent. It is necessary. It is critical of our very freedom to depends on. Let's talk 2020. Since we began this series, we have been making certain that the country understand that 2020 is not just about removing Donald Trump from the Oval Office. It is also about your health. It is also about your health care. People who fall under the unfortunate category of those suffering of pre-existing condition know darn well how difficult it is to get insurance when you already suffer of an illness. And before Obamacare, no one, especially in the working class, could afford premium of any insurance if an individual or a loved one suffers of a pre-existing condition. That's why you heard a lot of stories of people who have to mortgage their houses in order to seek treatment, to get money to seek treatment. So Obamacare is a lifesaver for millions of people across the nation. But for 10 years, Republicans, and we're not talking about just Donald Trump, Republicans have tried for 10 years, 6 years under Obama, and they already tried twice under Donald Trump, 8 years, to get rid of Obamacare. And despite the fact you heard that Donald Trump mentioned that he will cover people with pre-existing condition, it is a lie. We know that because as he's saying that to the crowd cheering at the fact that they still think that words from Donald Trump are worth anything, he's telling those people that yes, he will get rid of Obamacare and provide something better. His legal team are in the courtroom fighting to put an end to Obamacare. But listen more specifically. and more specifically to knock down the pre-existing condition benefit. Yes, you heard correctly. As we're talking, as you're hearing Donald Trump telling you that he will try to preserve pre-existing condition, his legal team, his attorneys are in the courtroom doing just the opposite. Now, it baffles me that people still believe whatever comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. Because even if I didn't know that piece of information, I would have known it's not true anyway. That's what's going on. So in other words, 2020 is not just about getting rid of Donald Trump. It's also about preserving your health care. Now, one thing that's common across the board in the Democrat side is the fact that all of them at least vow to make certain not only Obamacare survive, but more benefits are added to your health plan. So that is something you can pretty much count on, because they've been fighting. Not only Obama introduced the Health Care Act, but they also been fighting against the Republican from ending Obamacare. So that's not a speculation on my part either. So as such, he's another individual that you ought to meet. Wayne Messam. Now, who is he? Well, obviously, he's running for president. He wants to be your number one. By the way, that's the reason we use that song, that Caribbean beat rhythm, to introduce candidate for who vie to become the Democrat nominee in order to take on Trump. The song is "I Want to Be Your Number One." Now, Wayne Messam, who is he? Now, Wayne is the current mayor of a small city in Florida called Miramar, however it is pronounced. It only has 122,000 people according to a 2010 census. Now, 2017 census, that's an estimate. We're not sure, because I'm not certain whether that estimate was ever verified. According to a 2017 estimate, it jumped to 140,000. Now, Miramar is kind of a, I don't know, maybe you call diverse. It has 41% Caucasian, 45% Black, and close to 11% Hispanic. Now, Wayne assumed the mayorship. He is the 10th mayor of that city. He assumed the mayorship of Miramar in 2015. But before that, he was a member of the city of the 4th district from April 2011 to April 2015. That was the position that he occupied. Wayne was born on June of 1974, which means that he's probably around 44, 45 years old at this point. He is married to Angela, and they have 3 children. Wayne did go to Florida State University, and he was a football player. I think he wore the jersey number 89. He's pretty tall as well. He's 6'4". Wayne did go to Glade Central High School, and he was drafted in 1997. Now, Wayne did defeat what's the name of that lady, Lori
did defeat Larry in the 2015 mayorship election, and I believe that was the time. Maybe at the time that he was thinking that he wants to take his political career to the next level. Now, he probably did not know what the next level was, or maybe is it. Maybe he thought of running for governor, maybe he thought of running for the Senate seat. But it so happened that in early 2019, that's this year, of course, he floated the idea of running for president. Of course, this year, as you see, that a lot of mayors seems to be looking at the possibility they can jump from mayorship to presidency of the United States. Mayor Pete, who's been a lot of talk has been a lot of talking about him in the media because of his way of addressing issues. You have now Mayor Wayne Messam. There's also the rumors that Bill de Blasio may be thinking about a run for the presidency of the United States. Now, Mayor Messam, although he is bidding for the presidency of the United States under the Democrat banner, the Democrat Party, but in Florida, he actually did not run under any political party. He didn't even mention that. He didn't even consider running as independent. He ran as someone that belonged to any political party. Now, on the national stage, that's a little bit different because of the fact that, well, there are two major political parties, and you have to belong to one or the other, or you probably will not go far, because others before Wayne tried. We remember the person that got really further than anybody else in the history of this country was Ross Perot, who in I don't even recall which year that was, but it did manage to get close, I believe, 15% of the population to vote for him as a third-party candidate. Well, after Ross Perot, people who have run for president as a third-party candidate never really get much traction, never get far. And I always wonder why too, because we talk so much about how bad things are with the two major political parties, and yet the constituents don't want to move from supporting either party and move to a third party, despite that they've been talking so badly about those two major political parties. So, well, Wayne didn't have much choice, so he decided to go with the Democrat. Now, what are Wayne's chances? First, let's take a look at what Wayne proposed to do. First, we have to say that Wayne doesn't have much political experience. Well, not that can go against him, because so is Pete, so is a number of other individuals that we've already talked about in terms of people who want to who are bidding for the presidency of the United States. And in fact, Andrew Young, who is one of the contenders, doesn't have any political experience at all.
So 4 years is not great, but is not bad either. So what is Wayne's big idea? What does he want to do in order to gain traction? Well, Wayne seems to believe that he can ride the wave of canceling student loan debt. Wouldn't that be nice? Because he believes that student loan debt actually weighing the young generation down, because by the time that one completed study, then you are slapped with a heavy debt that sometimes it would take a decade to pay. Well, I am one such student, and it is pretty heavy load to have to continuously cater to loan for student loan. Of course, that needs to be reformed, but I don't know whether Wayne will be able to ride this wave of saying we're gonna cancel student loan, because it's easier said than done. We remember that Bernie Sanders in 2016 did manage to get a huge win behind him when he tried to address the very problem in our education system, and by saying that education should be free. And I think there was also some version of the education policy that Bernie would put out that would also take care of student loan. Now this year Bernie has a different not a different take, but a new idea, to a new wave to use as a theme, as a rallying theme for his campaign. So when it looks like picks up what Bernie had in 2016 and hoping to ride the wave of canceling student loan. Will he succeed? We don't know, but it is not necessarily a bad idea. But the question is, how is the Wayne campaign going to frame this idea? Because you imagine that most young people who actually join one campaign or the other were either students and have a serious student loan that they paying back or gonna come due, or they are students who already looking at the fact that, well, very soon they too are going to find themselves in that exact predicament. So it is a rallying theme, because if you have enough of those youngsters behind you supporting your campaign, chances are you can make it through. But Wayne is not a popular name. That nobody knew about Wayne, and so far nobody really paying much attention, because and he's not alone. He's not just an individual that people don't know about. Pete, by the way, happened to have also come from a very small place in Oregon, South Bend, I believe. I think it's comparable to Wayne predicament, because the population where Pete came from is only 100,000 people. So they pretty much, in terms of size, in terms of popularity, they both came from pretty much the same type of circumstance. But it looks like Pete, being the type of person that he is, in terms of outlining his vision for the country and going all over the place to talk about it, give him a lot of exposure. Now, so far, we haven't heard much from Wayne. We haven't heard much about him. But here at the fourth branch, as we already proposed, we're going to feature a candidate every day until we're done featuring all the candidates.
And of course, at that time, we will take a look at the different ideas that each one of those candidates has and try to figure out which one of those ideas can pick up steam and which will just fall on the wayside. And of course, at the same time, we will take a look at which candidate will be left behind, and that will be able to come up to that conclusion after we watch the first debate, which will take place interestingly enough, for Wayne in Florida in June. Now, whether Wayne would be able to participate, that's still up in the air, because the Democrat Party has set condition for people who vie for the presidency of the United States to participate in that first debate. You have to be able to raise a certain amount of money, and if you don't, you will not be able to participate. That doesn't mean you cannot continue your campaign. It simply means that you will not get that kind of exposure that you're seeking to have, because in a debate stage you have a lot of people laughing, so that would be the perfect opportunity for Wayne to show his idea, to present his idea to prospective constituents. But if he doesn't have the opportunity to be on that stage, then that would be his opportunity for him. So we'll watch to see how many candidates will make it to the stage, and more likely those who make it to the stage would fairly certain would be the one that would continue on with the campaign, because those who don't make it to the debate stage would have an uphill battle. So how far can Wayne Messam go? Well, we'll tell. A small network by the name of Fox News was launched with just 17 million viewers. Today, with over 100 million people watching regularly, Fox has become the greatest threat to our democracy, constantly bombarding the airwaves with false information, distortion of facts, and outright lies presented to its audience as news. Fox has created an army of blissful ignorance. According to a survey, 82% of Fox viewers are ignorant of facts and the truth. To keep millions of people in ignorance not only prevents democracy from flourishing, but it also clears the path to authoritarianism, to dictatorship. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Let me finish by saying that democracy cannot survive in an environment where truth and facts do not matter. At Fox, truth and facts do not matter. Indeed, democracy is in jeopardy. It is a crisis. The country It is all about the United States of America.
I must admit that sometimes I feel completely disillusioned, disheartened by the state of affairs in the country. It should be no surprise if I say to you that when I came to the country, yes, you heard correctly, I wasn't born here, and became an American citizen, and it's not something I did lightly. When I left my home country, I was not heading to America, I was heading to a country in Europe. But my parent was here, wanted me here. When I became a United States citizen, although I cannot talk about other people's sentiment, behavior, feeling, but I became a citizen with all my strength, with all my being, and I've since then been an ardent defender of the country. Sometimes I feel that those who were born here, and some who have become citizens like myself, do not even deserve to have the citizenship because they don't seem to care much about the country. And it seems it's all about profit, it's all about making money, it's all about getting rich, no matter how detrimental it is to the United States. That's why I am sometimes angered by the fact that when we have legislators, especially legislators, whose primary job is to uphold the Constitution, to defend the nation, those are the very people who know better. And those are the people that are helping damaging the United States of America. Sometimes I feel that the only best option would have to have all those people completely removed, because it doesn't seem any one of those individuals cares enough about the United States or loyal to the United States. Because it was always my impression that legislators, their loyalty is to the country first, not to an individual, not to a political party. I've been disappointed over and over and over. And what makes it even worse is the fact that most of the time, the Republican legislators try to make everything about politics. And the reason that they cling to that is because it is easy prey for them to pin their constituent against the other side and be able to keep their job irrespective of what they're doing or not doing for the constituent. As such, sometimes I am irritated by that fact. Now, I know politics. I gave you example of politics. I know what it's like to play politics. And there is a difference between politics and deception. Politics, an example is, for instance, when Mitch McConnell prevented the Obama administration from putting on the Supreme Court a judge. He lingered and lingered and lingered. Now you will not agree with it, I'm certain, especially if you are a Democrat. I understand that. But that's politics. So was what Mrs. Pelosi did when during the time that there was a shutdown and the State of the Union address ought to be delivered. Mrs. Pelosi sent a letter to the president and said, Mr. President, I'm really sorry because we will not be able to provide security because, there is a shutdown. Of course, that was politics. Now, you may not agree with it, you may not like it, especially if you are a Republican, but that was politics. So they use whatever advantage that they can use in order to get the other side to do something or not do something. When you have your legislators lying to you, that's not politics. For instance, when the Republican told you that the $1.5 trillion that they were going to borrow is a tax cut for you, that was deception, not politics. When Donald Trump tells you that he's going to give you a health care that also protect you from pre-existing condition, that's also deception. Because as I mentioned earlier, that as he's telling you that, his lawyers in the courtroom are arguing to put an end not only to Obamacare, but almost more specifically to the pre-existing condition benefit. So those are deception, not politics. So you may not like necessarily policies coming from Democrat, like nobody would like the idea of, oh gee, everybody ought to have healthcare, it's going to be costly. Yes, Republicans against that. You may not like it. You may not like the idea that Democrats are open armed to people who are homosexual. Yes, all that is understood. But at least it is not deception. Yes, you may not like the policy, you may not like the legislation, but those are not deception. Republican legislators, they consistently, categorically lie to their constituent. And that's the question. Why? Why do Republican legislators find it necessary to lie to their constituent? Because if you are doing something for the constituent and you think it's right and the constituent would love it, why not tell the constituent exactly what you're doing? Why do you have to lie? So when they borrowed the $1.5 trillion, for instance, they could have said, if they weren't lying, they could have said that we're going to take 83% of that, which is $1.3 trillion. We're going to give it to large corporation and wealthy individual, but the rest we're going to distribute to you. They could have said that, but they didn't say that. They said it's for you. They were deceitful. And the question is why? That's over and over and over again. As I mentioned before, any time that there is something that would benefit the constituent, Republicans are against it. And that's something I've already started to prove to you. And I went as far back as 100 years, a century, to show you it is a pattern. That's something that just happened, and it's not something that just Donald Trump is doing. It's something that Republican legislators have been doing for over a century now. Things that benefit the constituent, they're not for it. Things that put burden on the constituent, that's what they're for. As we continue the conversation, we will continue to show to you those very facts. What we are not able to understand up to this point is why. Why do they want to burden the constituent? But what they're good at, and that's why they're able to keep their job for so long, is messaging. Because when they talk about the tax cut, they didn't say a tax cut for the wealthy, they say a tax cut for you. And all of them going out there drumming the beat is a tax cut for the people, when in fact it's just the opposite. It is actually a tax bill for the working class. That we will explain tomorrow when we come back. We hope you have a wonderful afternoon. If you have comment, criticism, suggestion, please send it to us. We'd like to hear from you. And if you have a topic you would like us to talk about, let us know. We will research it. We will debate it right here on the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. Good afternoon. Fourth Branch podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.
kind of guy who will love you all over. And you're just the kind of girl who make love undercover. I'm just the kind of guy who will love you all over. And you're just the kind of girl who could watch me keel over.